Franchisors, both large and small, look for ways to find capital. My name is Ed Texera, and this presentation will provide the sources of capital for franchisors and large multi-unit franchisees. As you can see, there are a number of places for franchisors and multi-unit franchisees to obtain capital. It's important for you to understand the differences among these various sources of capital. In addition to banks, which have been the traditional source of capital funds, sources of capital can run the gamut from family and friends for the small startup franchisor to venture capital funds and private equity capital for more established franchisors. Angels are investor groups consisting of individuals that invest small amounts of capital in the group. Angels look for existing businesses that are highly scalable. In most cases, angels will look to invest an amount of $250,000 to $500,000. Venture capital firms look for companies that offer the potential for high returns. Since venture capital firms invest in a number of high-risk ventures, they usually seek very high returns. Look for a venture capital firm to play a strong management role in companies they invest in. This table shows the various stages companies are in when receiving venture capital funds. This represents the entire United States. As you can see, there is a high percent of investment in early and expansion stage companies. This table shows where venture capital was invested in the first half of 2010 in the New York metro region. As usual, software and biotech companies lead the pack. As the economy improves, expect increased investment in other business segments. It is anticipated that venture capital investments in franchise startups will take place as the recession continues to subside. Private equity firms, as opposed to venture capital firms, invest in established companies. Many private equity firms look to own a majority stake in the company. There are a number of franchise companies that private equity groups invested in where the principals retained a minority stake. A number of venture capital and private equity funds operate under the umbrella of the same firm. Over the past 10 years, private equity groups have become much more involved in acquiring equity in or purchasing franchise companies. Here are some brands you'll recognize. The private equity industry is rebounding from the doldrums of 2009. As you can see, the amount of money invested by private equity firms is significant. Although deal flow is coming back, most private equity firms will continue to be selective in terms of where they will invest their funds. Franchising will continue to be a focus of certain particular private equity firms. Franchisors that are generating a significant amount of receivables will typically use funds provided by an asset-based lender. The franchisor will pledge their accounts receivable or other significant assets as collateral for the funds being advanced. SBICs are a source of capital but not highly publicized or well known. These entities will usually require a personal guarantee from the recipient and the ability to be able to service their debt. The SBA is actively involved and typically will guarantee some of the lending provided by SBICs. Business incubators will usually focus on the technology sector. Many are located in university settings. Although not typically appropriate for franchisors, They can be a resource for assistance and perhaps even access to funding sources. Business incubators can be a good resource or vehicle for networking to potential investors. Franchisors seeking investment capital need to be aware of certain factors. Franchising remains somewhat unique in the minds of investors. However, the franchise model has much more appeal nowadays and is better understood than was the case years ago. Franchisors and multi-unit franchisees that are looking to source capital should follow these tips. At the very least, it will energize and improve your operations and will make your company more attractive to potential investors. In today's uneasy economic environment, it can be quite challenging for a franchisor to raise capital. Here is a list of suggestions and some advice to follow. Thank you for viewing our presentation. Here are some websites that can provide information on various funding groups. I wish you good luck in your pursuit of capital.